Sounds good.
Hi, welcome to this newest episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Adeep Mahmood, with my normal co-host Hunter, and today we're going to be talking some of the heavy news right now in Major League Baseball involving a legal case, a ownership change, free agency, as well as some changes in the Orioles and Nationals coaching staff. There's also we'll briefly talk about the Ravens and Steelers. As well as some other news going on in the NFL. And then we're going to be talking a little bit about Virginia Tech, where both the men's and women's basketball team have started off the season 3-0, and there are updates on the next head coach for Virginia Tech. So start off with baseball. So where do you want to start off with? Do you want to briefly talk about the Emmanuel Clase thing, or the Padres ownership situation or free agency? Where do you want to start with?
I'll let you go. I saw the Class A thing. That's cool, boy. That doesn't look good, but I'm going to hand the floor to you, man, because I'll just say this right off the top. That does not look good.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, what happened is that Clase and Ortiz, well, mainly Clase for the last couple of years, was involved in a scheme where he was talking with bettors about pre-planning certain pitches for a parlay. So first pitch being first pitch being a ball, the velocity, all that other stuff you see for betting, he was pre-planning everything. And this was an issue that started off in July when people started noticing that he's throwing outside pitches way too often in a pattern. And then they kind of exposed him, and but we know this goes deeper. This goes back a couple years, and then Luis Ortiz was roped into it this year. What's sad about this whole situation is Emmanuel Clase he's in the middle of a pretty decent contract.
Yeah.
And if he's making $12,000, $15,000, he doesn't need to make that much money. Even Ortiz, who's still making $800,000 for the rookie minimum, he's a pre-art player, I believe. He does not need to be doing this. And look, good on Andy Paez on that one situation where he swung at a bad pitch. This is horrific. This to me sucks. This to me, it ruins the integrity of the game. I know the whole sign stealing stuff, but at least you could say there's a gray area in what is legal and what is illegal. Betting or doing this type of stuff is detrimental. I mean, it's just not good. I mean, we just had the Padres manager just cite betting. Was it Mike? Not Mike Schilt. Mike Schilt, I believe, the Padres manager, for the reason he's retiring. The Padres literally have a new manager partly because of the whole betting situation. So it's just really dumb. And look, I mean, what do you think if Emmanuel Clase kept doing this for the next few years and he was up for a new contract? You think he gets $70 million?
No. Why would you throw away your career for this?
No, I'm talking about if this never happened and he kept pitching the way he's pitching.
Oh, sorry. I think you phrased the question weirdly. Yes, he would get, in that situation, yes, he would get a massive contract.
Right. So why do you do it? What's the point?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, why would you throw away your career for this? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's just such a stupid, foolish act. And, with betting, Pandora's box in general for betting was opened, a while back. And now, I feel like we're going to keep, I don't know if something like this is going to keep happening, but I feel like we're going to see more betting scandals in general going forward as, more and more stuff happens with sports betting, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we saw an NBA situation going
Yeah.
on. And then also, so let's move on to the other topic because we talked about that. The Padres. There was a situation a year ago about the brothers kind of figuring out who was going to be owning the team. We now know they are going to be selling the team. Now, here's the interesting thing. They have their main 4 big contracts, Machado, Tatis, Bogarts. That's about $1 billion, close to. I think their 4 or 5 biggest contracts are about $900 million. I would not be surprised if we start to hear more about, are they going to consider starting to move these guys? Because if you're an owner, you do not want all these contracts. And it's not like Machado is going to be a free agent 2 years from now. He's going to be a free agent 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Tatis, where do the Padres? How does this shape the Padres off season?
I still feel like they want to win now because they have all those big contracts. They have all these great players. But, if this does happen, we could potentially see a direction change maybe at some point down the line. But I still feel like with the players that they have, how talented they are, I don't think they're just going to punt right away, even with potential new owners coming in.
Yeah, and I think part of it is also AJ Preller is they're negotiating an extension with him. So whoever the new owners are going to be stuck with AJ Preller. But no, I think maybe you could see a Cronenworth or Joe Musgrove potentially being moved. I don't think Jackson Merrill's getting moved because that's even though that's a long-term contract, that guy is not. He is really good, and that guy is being underpaid. But something like a Joe Musgrove, like one of those types of those contracts, I can see being moved. But no, it's gonna be because it's also like you do have some of these Japanese players, and they do like playing in the West Coast. Like, do you go out and get does this? It'll be interesting if they still go after a someone like Imai or Murakami or Okamoto. There's gonna be interesting there now. But yeah, I definitely think they still have enough flexibility to go out and land like a Shota Minaga type in that rotation because Yu Darvish is out. They could potentially get a Michael King. So there are options. I just think this might take them out of Framber Valdez. This might take them out of Kyle Tucker. This might take them out of those massive $300 million contracts because you are not in the position to do so, to handle one of those. But there are guys, Chris Bassett, or like some of these guys like that they could go after. So it's not going to impact them too much. But they can definitely, it's going to hurt what they can do. And then obviously we do have the awards that came out this week. It was pretty interesting seeing basically a lot of the repeats from last year. Stephen Vogt from the Guardians. I forgot who was for the National League. And then obviously Ohtani and Judge. Obviously Judge versus Cal Raleigh was.
If you're talking for the Cy Young, it was Skeens.
It was Skeens and Skubal.
Yeah.
And then it was Stephen Vogt and Pat Murphy.
That's right. Yeah.
And then it was Ohtani and Aaron Judge. I believe that's the same combination from last year. But what were your thoughts? Like, basically same, like you expected.
I'm not surprised. Like, I think both managers, deserved it. I felt like Paul Skeens especially deserved the NL Cy Young, trying to carry that terrible Pirates team all season. Skubal was great. Ohtani, we're still witnessing greatness. I mean, we're gonna tell our future kids and grandkids about this for years to come once he finishes playing. Aaron Judge, no surprise either. I'm not surprised by any of these. Like, that's how good these players they are, and the two managers as well.
You weren't surprised. I do want to phrase this question before we talk a little bit more about Paul Skeens. Terry Skubal, Paul Skeens, they both signed. Again, I'm not saying which team, but they both signed what we expect them to sign in free agency. Over under $950 million is the combined value of those contracts.
I'll go over.
I think over, but not $1 billion. I think like 970, 975 is where, if you add up both of their contracts, it's going to be around that range.
Oh yeah, And I still do not think the Pirates will be able to afford that.
By the way, did you see the Pirates 2 days ago? The Pirates GM, we got all this flexibility in the world. We're going to spend money. Then now, we might spend 30-40 million in free agency.
I don't believe it for a second. They say that every year, man. Oh, we're going to spend some money. We're going to spend some money. Then they go bargain bin shopping. I just don't believe it. The owner doesn't care. So
here's the other thing. If they were to spend 30-40 million, their payroll is going to be at 104, 105, which is embarrassing. But that's if they don't trade Mitch Keller. That's $16.5 million. So if they do trade Mitch Keller, which since that quote, I've been looking at a lot of responses from Pirates fans. Almost every one of them says, sure, they're going to trade for Mitch. They're going to trade Mitch Keller, and then they're going to sign 3 or 4 guys. It's like, there's your flexibility. It's sort of like shedding a bad contract to spend more, and then telling your fans, see, we spent more money. It's like, no, you got rid of a decent but not great pitcher, and our payroll is pretty much where it would have been. And it's like, if you're Paul Skeens, it's like, what am I doing here? I don't want to be Mike Trouted here. I don't want to be a good player on a bad team. I need to be somewhere. And look, the guy's won 2 Cy Youngs. Like, the fact is, by the time, like, would it shock you if he wins 3 or 4 Cy Youngs by the time he hits free agency?
No. I think, by the way, he only has 1 Cy Young, right? I think it's just this year.
Didn't he? I'll double check last year.
Rookie of the year, and then he won the Cy Young this year.
Okay.
Yeah. He won the Rookie of the Year last year, then he won Cy Young this year.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. So, but yeah, so 1 Cy Young this year. He's gonna have multiple before it's all said and done. He's before he hits free agency, and it's like, so that's what's really frustrating. I do buy the Marlins spending a little bit of money. Like, I could see a reliever. I could see Devin Williams-ish, Ryan Helsley, Robert Suarez. I could see one of those guys being there. I think they're going to keep Alcantara. But I do buy Marlins spending a little bit of money. I don't buy the Pirates spending a little bit of money. That's just, you got to show me. Like, at this point with Pirates, I don't even care about the quality. Just spend money.
Right.
Just spend money, and then we'll worry about the quality of it later. But obviously, there were reports that the reliever market was kind of becoming bigger. We'll see what happens with Kyle Tucker. We'll see what happens with Bo Bichette. We'll see what happens with Bregman. Before we finish up the baseball talk, obviously the Orioles and Nationals have reshaped their manager options. First of all, what's your reaction to some of the other manager hirings? Craig Stammen for the Padres, Walt Weiss for the Braves.
I love Craig Stammen being a manager now. Like, you see all the former Nats, Kurt Suzuki is also a manager now. So I love seeing some of the former Nats get manager jobs. I think Kurt Suzuki is going to be a solid.
Adam Eaton's the first base coach for one of those.
Which is awesome too. But I think Suzuki is going to be a solid manager. He always seemed to be, very in tune with things when he was with the Nats. Craig Stammen, very underrated reliever when he was on the Nats in his prime. I'm excited to see what he can do. And then, just real quickly, as for the Nats, hiring, Blake Butera. I think that's how you pronounce his name, Blake Butera or Blake.
I say Butera.
Butera, sorry, my fault. 33 years old. I mean, buddy, like I can't believe he's barely older than us. That's crazy. And Paul Taboni was on MLB Network and basically said, yeah, I didn't personally know him before the process, but I had heard of him and I wanted to talk to him. So that happened. They hit it off and he was able to win out. And I'm really excited for this. Obviously, he spent a lot of time with the Tampa Bay Rays. He was the senior player development director. He has managed before 4 minor league seasons. He was 258 and 144. So he does have manager experience, but he's also coming from a player development role. Excited to see this is going to be his debut in the majors. And I like this for a team that is trying to go young and is still rebuilding right now. So I don't know if this is the manager that they'll have when they get back to the playoffs, but I like it for now because he's going to get to work with more young players. That's the main reason why I really like this hire. And the pitching coach, he's also pretty young as well. I like how Taboni is surrounding himself with some, good analytical young minds, both, coaching wise, managing wise, and also in the front office.
Yeah, I think the bench coach seems to be pretty interesting for the Nationals. I believe he was with the Rays for a little bit. I think going back to, I think what's really smart about what Taboni has done is you pick the staff that fits the roster. You don't pick the staff that is flashy, right? They could have just said, here's Brandon Hyde, here's here's insert veteran manager, here's whatever. I like the idea of having a really young team and then bringing in someone focused on player development. Because if this works and they're competitive, you got a manager and a coaching staff that has seen these guys develop. So when they are competitive, it's a lot easier to maneuver through those challenges of winning a postseason or winning, like having multiple winning seasons, getting to the World Series, playing through hard times. Because let's assume it's a 1 or 2 year situation with Butera about rebuilding and getting with a rebuild. He's been in there. That just asks you to be on that day to day, work on your fundamentals, do all this other stuff, and then that might pay dividends down the line. He could also just be one of these managers that, look, right now we need someone to help develop these players. Eventually, we might need someone else with a proven track record. We'll see if Butera can make that translation. He may not. What's interesting is there's a connection between Butera and Craig Albernaz, who's the Orioles manager. Albernaz actually coached Butera in 2016. So one of the things that I do like that hire. He seems to be very fundamental focused, player focused. I really like these guys that he's brought in as the bench coach. Donnie Ecker as the bench coach. He was on the Giants staff from 20 to 23. He was a hitting coach, one of the hitting coaches from when the Giants won 107 games. And then he was actually with the Rangers when they won the World Series in 2023. He was fired partly because of Bruce Bochy is a very old school and stubborn guy. So his way of looking at things didn't quite match up with Donnie Ecker's at the end. That's why he was let go. First base coach Justin Lin. Apparently, the stat nerds really like this guy. He has advanced with the weighted bat training, bat speed, which is what allowed the Blue Jays to actually get better and get to the World Series by focusing on their bat speed. So I do like that hire. They're keeping Drew French as a pitching coach. They're bringing in Jason Bourdreau as the first base coach. If you are a baseball fan in the 2010s, he was in one of those Michael Bourne, Carl Crawford, speedy outfielder types. So again, base running fundamentals there. Mitch Plassmeyer is going to return. Ryan Klimek is going to return. It seems like Buck Britton may or may not return. So it's a good mix between the coaching staff for the Orioles and coaching staff for the Orioles and coaching staff for what Craig Albernaz wants. Before we move on to the NFL, I know Michael Eyes did make some comments about spending money. I do think they're going to have a payroll around they're going to try to get a payroll around 190, 200 million. However they do it, I don't know. But I've never seen Michael Eyes be this direct and saying, I want a front rotation pitcher. I want a closer type. I know they traded for Kittredge. Good move, but you need 1 or 2 arms and kind of form a good back end of that trio. And you need a bat. And then rumors were they were in on Pete Alonso, that they might be in, which is smart. No qualifying offer. You could still go after a pitcher, one of those high-end pitchers. But if you get Pete Alonso, you get Gunnar Henderson, you get Jordan Westburg, you get Rutschman, That's a nice middle of the order bat you could put right there in Camden Yards, and that wall's moved back. His moved up. I mean, Pete, imagine what he can do at Camden Yards and Yankee Stadium and in Boston and in Tampa. He could make a big difference there, but we'll see what they do in free agency. Like I said, I expect him to go get a front end starter. I expect him to go get at least one back end reliever and one bat. Cody Bellinger is someone I think that they are considering, but do not overlook Pete Alonso coming to Baltimore. I'll just leave it at that. I don't have any inside information. It just seems like that could be the move they make. All right, so Ravens Ravens Steelers. What were your thoughts on Steelers last couple weeks?
I mean, I love the win against the Colts. That was a very typical Steelers bounce back performance after an ugly loss the week before. And then against the Chargers, Aaron Rodgers just showed his old age. That was the worst performance of the season for him so far. He was not seeing the field well, had happy feet in the pocket, was just abandoning clean pockets at will for no reason, even when he wasn't under that much pressure. Just was, again, not really seeing the field at all. I think he was the biggest reason why they lost that game. The defense did everything they could to try and win that game last week. Obviously, they didn't get the turnover, but they were still forced it to me enough 3-and-outs, and they were holding them to field goals before the dam finally broke a bit later in the game. The offense just could never finish drives and really just get other drives going. That was the biggest difference for me in that game against the Chargers. And now it's only a 1-game lead for the Steelers over the Ravens. The Steelers this week have the Bengals at home. It's a game that they should win, but we saw a few weeks ago that the Steelers gave up 33 points to a Joe Flacco-led Bengals team, and the Flacco should be out there again. He was limited in practice today, but if you want to win this division, that's a must-win. You got to get to 6-4. This has been a tough stretch of the schedule. The Ravens, I believe they are in Cleveland this week, Adit. Yep. So, I mean, that's a very winnable game. Even though the Browns play hard at home, I still feel like the Ravens should win that game. But I got to see more from the Steelers offense. I felt like they should have still gone out there and gotten a wide receiver the trade deadline. They felt like they didn't want to. And, that's their prerogative. But I still felt like they needed another target next to DK Metcalf. I still want to see him get more involved. It's weird how they use Jaylen Warren against the Chargers. Like, he was the best player by far on offense for the Steelers, and Mike Tomlin just gave it was just a very strange response when he was asked about his usage and stuff. So, like, he was off the field on every third down in their loss against the Chargers. That doesn't make any sense with the game that he was having, the year that he has had as a running back. You want him on the field basically at all times. I just don't understand what Arthur Smith and company are doing with that. But I like the Kyle Duggar move. I think he's had 2 really solid games here in a row. I like that Jalen Ramsey is at safety, but I still, again, Rodgers needs a big bounce back this week, and they still have to figure out how to stop Chase and Higgins because they got absolutely destroyed by both of those guys last time. Thankfully, the Bengals defense is awful, so this could be a get-right game, but what I saw against the Chargers, that was unacceptable, to say the least. So I'll leave it at that. We got a real divisional race here. I feel like I know which way this is going to go now that Lamar is back, but hey, we'll see. They got the Steelers and Ravens still have to play twice this year.
I think this week's going to be huge because right now Ravens are 1-0 in the division. They beat the Browns. Steelers are 0-1. If the Ravens beat the Browns and the Steelers lose to the Bengals, the Ravens having that 2-win advantage in the division might.
Steelers are 1-1 in the North, by the way. 1-1.
Okay, sure. So basically, again, that division record, if the Ravens were to win, then they would then take the spot. But yes. No, I think we got to give credit to Zach Orr. I think what he's done with that defense, I believe, is 14 points per game that they've given up since Aloha Gilman got there, which was the Rams game. They're turning the ball over, which is great, which is what they weren't doing before. My only worry is if this does become a situation where they need to turn the ball over multiple times to win. You and I know this. You and I know you can't necessarily rely on creating turnovers. You have to try to win by creating pressure. We'll see what happens. Draymond Green, obviously, they traded for Draymond Jones. I keep forgetting Draymond Jones. Looks like he's doing good. Like I said, Gilman has kind of helped that defense. Kyle Hamilton playing in that close to the line of scrimmage is helping them. Marlon Humphrey's going to be out for his game. He should be back next week. I would assume Bateman will be out next week, this week as well. So I mean that's Tez Walker and more for DeAndre Hopkins. Still worried about the offensive line. The right guard situation is not improving. We'll see what happens there. There was some talk about Travis Jones in free agency this year is going to be one of the highest paid defensive linemen because he's good. Linderbaum, Isaiah Likely, they're gonna have to figure out all that stuff. But it's definitely we'll see what happens. It's a nice run. I'm with Lamar. You gotta treat every week like you're 1-5. Because right now you're 4-5. That's great. You have a 3-game winning streak, but you don't have that margin of error. You gotta keep winning.
Yeah.
You gotta keep winning. You got the Jets a week after the Browns. If things are handled right and you go 6-5 after these next 2 weeks, you should be in pretty good shape. But you got to get to 6-5. I want to see this team get to at least 3 wins in division wins, 3 division wins as soon as possible. And that's going to be huge. But we'll see what happens there. And then other NFL news, unfortunately, Antonio Brown has found himself in legal issues. There's not really a lot there. The Giants fired Brian Dable. And then obviously, so now we have Dable is gone and the Titans coach is gone. So, what are your thoughts on Dable being fired?
Not surprised. I felt like it was time for the Giants to go in a different direction. What's more surprising, I think, is that Joe Schoen is still going to stay on as GM. I think the Giants need a full house cleaning for their front office and their coaching staff. I think they need to start over. I don't understand the thought process for bringing back the GM. Dable, he was a dead man walking after this last game. They've blown too many leads this year, Adi. That's the thing. They've played good football in spurts, but they give it all away because they don't know how to win. They haven't known how to win outside of one season in quite some time. So, you can bring in a new coach, that's fine. But as long as that GM is still in place, I just don't know how much better things are going to get for them. So,
sure. And then we'll move on to the last topic, Virginia Tech. We'll talk Virginia Tech football out in the second part of it. But women's basketball, men's basketball have started the year. Women's and men's basketball are both 3-0. Neither team is ranked, but Virginia Tech men's basketball is getting closer to being ranked. That's good. That's good to see. After the game against Providence, I know a lot of people are talking about Abdallas. And just to keep in mind, the reason they were able to get Abdallas partly was, I believe, Chester Frazier was friends with his agent. So, but what are your thoughts so far on what you've seen from the basketball teams?
I haven't watched as much as the women's team yet. So, I want to be able to watch a few games before I really give, my full thoughts on it. I'm happy that they're off to a great start. But as for the men, I've been able to watch a couple of the games. Neo is a freak, man. He really is just an absolute freak of a player. You can see why there is NBA hype from him. And, he can hit any shot on the court. He's a matchup nightmare for opposing teams. It felt like he was just taking over that game against Providence over the weekend. And that by the end of the year, we could be talking about that win as a potential quad 1 win for Virginia Tech for NCAA tournament purposes. Providence is going to be an NCAA tournament team. That was a very quality win for this team. And, you beat St. Joseph's last night. Remember last year, they lost to them.
Yep.
So, and you look at 1 year later, they blew them out with a much better roster. I know we had our thoughts about Mike Young last year and, the job he did and all that. They just didn't give him a roster. They didn't give him money. Now
all the NIL money went to football.
Yeah, I get it. I understood it was like make or break year for Brent Pry, but you still needed to help out Mike Young a little bit more. And he kind of said that after the year, I still want to do this, but he released that video after the season, and he was like, basically implying, I need a little bit of help, guys. I can still coach, but I'm going to need a little bit of help. Thankfully, they were able to, get him some help, got him some a little bit more money, and you're seeing the early returns here with this team. I really do think by the end of this season, this team can be an NCAA tournament team. I'm not sure they're going to win the ACC. I don't want to go that far, but I think this has the makings of a potential top 25 team that can get into the NCAA tournament and maybe even make a little bit of a run. Neo is, if he continues on this path, I think he will go down as one of the best players to ever play for this program. I understand that is very early. I know it's 3 games, but you see the hype that is there. But yeah, I think this is the best player that has come into the programs yet since Nickeil Alexander-Walker when he went to the NBA. Like, we all know how great Alexander Walker was. You and I were both there for his time at Virginia Tech. He was an absolute freak on the court. Neo has a chance to be, I think, better than Nickeil, in my opinion. So I've loved it so far. Again, Toby, I think he's going to get going a little bit as well. I'm excited for the moves that Mike Young made. Hansberry, I think, is going to get going as well. So Mike Young has a roster here, man. Like, with how good of an offensive innovator he is, if he figures out a little bit more of the defense more consistently, this team is going to be really hard to beat.
Yeah, no, and no, but I think they're going to be surprised. I know people were saying they're projected to be 12th in the ACC.
That's ridiculous.
They're not going to. They're way too talented to be 12th. But we'll see what happens with the men's basketball team. You were kind of going to take my second point. Hansberry looks really good. Bedford, I think it was Abdallas and Bedford against Providence that had 40 plus points. So obviously that you do have those. And it just seemed like they're playing loose and they're playing a lot of fun. I know Toby was the big guy, was the big player for them a year ago. And if he's your third or fourth best player, this team's really good. That's how good the depth is for the team. If Toby Lowell is your third or fourth best player, he's good. The only concern is if Abdallas gets into foul trouble early on. I know that was the issue in the Providence game. Virginia Tech, the pace was definitely thrown off. So that's something you do have to watch out for. The last thing we're going to talk about is Virginia Tech football. Obviously, just you can kind of elaborate more on this, but most recently, James Franklin was house hunting for the 3rd time last Tuesday. Today, he was seen at Old Dominion. And again, that does not mean that he is guaranteed to be the head coach, because you got to consider the head coach of Old Dominion was his offensive coordinator. But it is worth noting he's in the area. He's not in Arkansas. He's not in a neutral site. He is in Virginia, and we know that there's going to be a board. I believe there's going to be a board of visitors meeting sometime soon. We know that it looks like it's all coming to a head. But what are your thoughts on the updates with James Franklin?
I think they want to get this done ASAP. I think, I have a sub to VT Scoop. I don't want to steal all their thunder and anything like that. I think part of it, go sub for the whole thing. I'm not going to, be ridiculous here. I do think part of it is, in my opinion, I think Jimmy Sexton is trying to get Franklin a little bit of money from Penn State before he potentially signs with Virginia Tech. That's the vibe I get. It feels like they've offered him a massive contract. I think, indeed, if he takes this job, this will be the biggest contract Virginia Tech has ever given a head coach, and rightfully so. I think this is a deal that could potentially reset the coaching market and show not just the ACC, but the college football world that Virginia Tech is serious and that they are trying to get back to the level that they were at for a little bit when Michael Vick was there. And, even during the late 2000s when, we were winning and competing for ACC titles. I think they want to get back there. They want to get back. Not even get back. They want to get to a college football playoff. I would go down to a game at Lane if they played for the playoff. And I think James Franklin has the ability to get them there. I think, because we really haven't discussed this on the show because you and I have been so busy these last few weeks. That's why the shows haven't been on a weekly basis. I think with Franklin, this is the perfect fit for him. Virginia is a great, feeding ground for him, if you will.
Given the local distance between Penn State and Virginia Tech, it could be a giant through you to Penn State. Because imagine how many guys he could take from Penn State. Imagine how many guys he was recruiting to Penn State and thinking that he was going to coach them at Penn State. Imagine, hey, come down to Blacksburg. You're closer to home.
They might do that. And again, like that's why I say like this is kind of like some of his stomping grounds. He comes into Virginia a lot of times as the Penn State coach, and he has taken the top recruits. Virginia Tech will have a much better chance of holding on to the top recruits in the state, making sure they don't go out to these other big programs like a Penn State, like an Ohio State, like an LSU, like an Alabama. We can keep going on for all the blue blood programs, but like those are just a few of them. Like they will have a better chance of keeping them. Go ahead.
And then also with Maryland with Locksley. I mean, I don't think he's getting fired. Apparently, they're the people at power in Maryland. They don't have the money, or they're not able to get the money to buy out Locksley. But then again, think of it this way: Locksley, Maryland could be an area where Virginia-based athletes go to. But if Locksley continues to struggle, you're not going to get many people to come up to Maryland. I mean, it's still a power program, but I just wanted to point that out, like that Maryland's a little inconsistent as well.
Yes, I agree with you on that. And I think personally, I would hope that James thinks he can win here. And I think he can win at Virginia Tech. I think he can look at the ACC and see that this is a conference that's right for the taking. Clemson's not what they used to be. Florida State's terrible, and they got a decision to make on Mike Norvell. I don't even know if they have the money to fire him. Like, all it takes, man, is one good portal class, with the right evals. Tony Elliott was on the hot seat, just like Brent Pry was heading into this year. UVA fans were done with him. But you know what he did? He went out there, got a legit quarterback in the portal. They got Jamari Taylor and a few other players. They hit on their evals, and look how they've been this year. Now, do I think they are as good as their record indicates? No, I think they've gotten really lucky with some of their wins.
And Chandler Moore, depending on if he's like what his health situation is, because take Chandler Moore's out of that equation at UVA. That backup UVA quarterback, he had a really nice run. And like that run he had in that game, they disguised that really well. I will give him credit. So he's not a bum, but you had a great advantage with Chandler Morris.
Oh, yeah. He's awesome. He's a great quarterback. And, this is his only year there. They'll have to figure out the quarterback situation after this if they want to go with the backup next year or bring in someone else. But my point is that, like, all it takes is the right evals with a portal class to get good again. And that's exactly what happened with UVA this year and why Tony Elliott is going to get at least another year there for the 2026 season. With Franklin, I think he can turn around Virginia Tech pretty quick. Now, do I think they'll be a playoff team next year? No, probably not. But I think this team can win, 8+ win games next year, potentially. Like, we'll see. Yeah. And then maybe the year after, they're potentially competing for the playoff. I think he can get this program back really quick. And I do think we're going to find out about this pretty quick here. Like, I don't think Virginia Tech can afford to wait around that much longer. I think they're going to want to get this nipped in the bud. Like, I think they want to make sure Florida State doesn't open, because I do personally, I think, frankly, we'd be like, ooh, Florida State, I could be interested in that. But I also don't know if Florida State has the money to buy out Mike Norvell right now. And I also don't know if FSU would have the money to pay Franklin. I'm just saying it would still behoove them to get this done, especially because after this weekend against Florida State, VT plays Miami next week. That could be a big recruiting weekend if you have a new coach in place at that time. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I hope they get this done. Everything I keep reading about it on VT Scoop says there's a good chance, but until it's done, it's not done. Just keep your tweet notifications on for Pete Thamel, because he will be the first to leak it, because Jimmy Sexton will text him, hey, this is a done deal, and he'll tweet it. So,
yeah. So just speaking of VT Scoop, if you do want to keep track of Virginia Tech, Colby Crawford, he does a great job with this stuff. So if you go look him up, again, you'll get more information. You'll get and actual honest information on that point. If they don't get it done with Franklin, I do think they will get it done with Franklin. I think that they've invested too many resources. It seems like they're willing to pay him a lot of money. It seems like it's not just money, that they're giving him the creative control of the NIL, because also the support staff. You also have to realize, with a situation like this, it's not just like in the NFL. Oh, let's hire a coach. This might have to go up to the state. This might have to go up to the other situation with Penn State. I mean, heck, he might, if Penn State, Franklin might try to accept this job quicker before Penn State gets their new head coach, because then it allows him to flip all these guys. Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting what they do there with some of the other stuff. But yeah, we'll end the show on that note. Right now, Patriots are playing the Jets on Thursday Night Football. By the way, last week was fine. There were good games. There were bad games. And there was whatever the heck last Thursday night was.
Terrible football. That's one way to describe it. Terrible football, buddy.
Yeah, and then literally Monday Night Football.
Yep.
0-0 for the first half.
Bad football. There you go.
So it is 2-minute warning in that Thursday night game. Patriots up 14-7. So there's your update there.
And New England is going to win that division. I will say it here. If I may be wrong, I think New England is winning that division this year, which I'm stunned by.
Look, I think right now New England is the scariest team in the AFC right now. Let's wait until the end of the year. The second part is we haven't seen the Ravens advance further. We have not seen Kansas City at full strength yet.
Nope.
We have not, and we'll see what happens with the Bills. This could very well be a situation where at the end of the year, we think, because I think at the start of the year it was, it's not, the powerhouses aren't going to be the powerhouses. It's going to be Pittsburgh. It's going to be the Chargers. It's going to be the Colts. It's going to be the Patriots. But it seems like sometimes it gets reversed. And it might be Ravens, Chiefs. It might be the AFC Championship game might be 2 of Ravens, Chiefs, Bills. It could be Patriots. Could be Colts. Danny Dimes. That rust is we're seeing the bad of Danny Dimes right now. And I think Jonathan Taylor has to be in consideration for MVP.
I 100% agree with that. I like the Colts. I do not trust them with Daniel Jones. I do not think he is. I know he's had a good year for the most part. Last couple of weeks, though, that's the Daniel Jones that I remember, my friend. I don't trust him.
Yep. And if they didn't have Jonathan Taylor, where would they be?
Great question. Yep. Great point.
Yep. So we'll end the stream on that note. And then we'll see again. This weekend, I can't record this weekend. There's a couple of things. We'll try again, not this weekend, the weekend after, just to give some time for some stories and hopefully some signings in MLB. But yeah, this was pretty much a lot of topics we have to kind of bring together. All right. See you.